Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Lorna. I'm so glad we're getting rid of winter and now we're into springtime. So today I am drinking tea with a friend of mine that I haven't seen for a while, but I'm excited to chat with her and catch up and see what she's been getting up to. So let's welcome my guest today, Carmen McPherson, who is actually married, so she has a new additional last name. Tell me your new last name. You've been married for a while, but tell me what it is.
It's McPherson Varner.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
So, before we get chatting, tell me, what tea are you having today?
I will be having Earl Grey.
Okay.
And do you want to know why I've chosen Earl Grey?
Yeah, why did you choose Earl Grey?
Because I love there are a number of teas that I actually love, but Earl Grey, if I don't have much to choose from, it will be my first pick because of the aroma.
Okay, all right. That's a great reason.
So that's it.
Okay, I like Earl Grey also, but I'm not having Earl Grey today. Mostly because I don't have any milk with me, and I know I like to have milk in my Earl Grey tea. I know you do not.
No, I don't.
So,
lemon for me.
Lemon for you,
Yeah.
Milk for me. I also do sugar. Do you do sugar?
I do sugar or honey.
So that's what I'm doing today. I'm not having Earl Grey is my point. I'm actually having a pomegranate raspberry green tea, which I love. It was excellent. So that's what's in our teapot today, and that's what's brewing at Tea Time with Lorna. So tell me, the last time we had a chat, I know you were finishing school or you were doing something like that. What did you end up finishing school and doing?
I actually just finished my doctoral program.
Okay.
Yes, at Southern Connecticut State University. It took me about 8 years in total. I started in 2009, finished my coursework in 2012, but then spent the remaining years completing my dissertation.
Okay. That is excellent. So what does that mean? You have a dissertation. What was your subject matter for your dissertation?
Well, my doctoral studies was centered on educational leadership. My doctoral thesis, I looked at structural inequities, teacher perceptions of structural inequities in urban education.
What does that mean?
Structural inequities. Okay, so my focus was on urban education.
Okay.
When you talk about structural inequities within an urban school context, what you're looking at those systems that are in place that actually, instead of allowing students access to opportunities, they actually serve as barriers.
Oh.
So if you think about policies, if you think about discipline policies, if you think about attendance policies, if students miss 4 days of school, if they miss 10 days of school within a particular marking period, they could fail that marking period, things like that, which for many of our students, or students within the urban context, there are a number of reasons why they may be missing school, and it's not necessarily their fault. A lot of it has to do with challenges they're experiencing at home. So, things like that.
So, because I don't know the answer to this, how many days of school are there in a marking period?
In the marking period, approximately, say about 44.
So, the current policy is if you miss 10 of those 44, you may have...
Technically, you could fail, yes.
Just because of that. So, even if you're an A student, when you're there...
Yes. Now, based on the fact that this has an inherent bias, okay, there are ways around that. Students may be able to appeal, if they're seeming that they're going to have to fail that particular marking period, they can put in an appeal and, that can be heard. So there are ways around that. But yes, in some instances, not necessarily our schools, but in some instances, yes, there are policies in place that say, hey, you miss a certain amount of days, boom, that's it, you fail for that particular marking period.
Now, tell me what's going on, because I don't know if you know this, maybe you do. I have on occasion worked as a substitute teacher locally. So tell me, what do you think is going on in our schools? Why many children seem to be, can I say, undisciplined? Let's use undisciplined. What do you think is going on?
They're not disciplined. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with expectations. I think that for many adults who have to interface with students within the town that you're referring to, that they're not equipped to handle the students. Some of them They don't care. Some of the adults are afraid. Some of the adults just think, oh, that's just the way they are. So they allow certain behaviors, and the kids take advantage of that.
How much of this do you think is parental responsibility? Because if the kids are misbehaving in school, does it correlate that they're also misbehaving at home?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
There's not a direct correlation at all. And the reason is that kids respond to... Kids know. Kids will tell you. So then you talk to kids, the worst behaved kid, they'll tell you, oh, teacher doesn't care, teacher's not strict. Because what I will say about the students in the context within which we're referring to, our students are very perceptive. And so they read you very, very quickly. They'll respond to you. If you set the bar high, they will get there. Now it's going to take some struggle. They're not just going to, oh, because you said sit down, I'm going to sit down. But they want to know that you've got this, right? That because you will see students will behave one way for you, they'll behave another way for somebody else. The same child. So it's not necessarily the child. They'll be good for you, they'll be terrible for somebody else. It has nothing to do with it's about the environment. That's what we found. Now there are some outliers that will respond to nobody. I'm not talking about the outliers because they're probably 5% of any school.
Well, I think that's interesting because I have to say I worked as a substitute teacher within one of the schools locally, and I think I had either first or second grade. I don't remember what grade it was. And the teacher stayed in the room to do something. I don't remember what she needed to do, but she was still in the room. But she was to one corner doing her stuff. And the kids, they know she's in the room. So their choice is to behave or not to behave, right? Mm. And I gathered them around on the floor in the reading area. And she'd given me a lesson plan, so I knew I had to read with the kids. But I think I made it very interactive. I didn't just start reading. I didn't go okay, once upon a time, or whatever the story was. I said, okay, look at the book. What's this color? What word is this? Who knows this? Can you read the title of the author? Who's this? I wonder, do you know when it was printed? Who knows what printing is? Do you see what I'm saying? I went beyond just reading the book and had other questions, and raise your hand if you think you know the ending of this story. Right. And one kid was like, oh, I think such and such is going to happen. I'm like, what is that based on? He's like, well, look at the picture. And I allowed them to...
reading strategies that you were using.
Well, I didn't even know
that's what they are.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
It's one of the expectations. That should be the norm. But
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you very much. So this kid is coming up with this whole story of how he thinks this is going to end based on the cover. Right. Which is really nothing. Prediction. And so somebody else was like, no, I don't think it's going to go like that. Right. I think so. We had about 6 people having an opinion on how this book would end, and then I had them vote. I said, let's vote on how this book is going to end. Right. And I hadn't even turned the page yet. Yeah. So we have a vote based on the 6th. Right. And then I said, well, at the end, the one closest, we'll think of something. Say, congratulations, I don't know, something. And they were excited to see how this book was going to end, to see who they voted for and who was going to be the winner. So they really, and I was like, you've got to be quiet because we need to know who's going to win. Right. So don't talk while I read. Let's see who's going to win. Right. And one of the boys was like, I know it's me. And the other one was like, no, it's me. So it was interesting because then I was like, well, why don't you sit in your 6 groups based on where you think. So they moved and sat in their 6 groups, and then I started reading this book, and I pointed out and read the book. It wasn't that long, obviously. And the funny thing is that they were all wrong. They were all wrong. Nobody knew. It was the ending that even I hadn't seen coming. Yeah. And they were like, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. And I was like, well, neither did I. And we all learned something. Well, nobody gets a prize. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. Those are the rules. And they're like, that's okay. We love the book anyway. Yeah. So it was a great experience. Right. It was very interactive. Right. And again, I don't know how people normally read books to their kids, but that's what I did. Right. And it was and the teacher came to me afterwards and said to me, I've got to say you have been the best sub I've ever had in this class. Right. She said, I can't believe the kids were so attentive. They listened to you. She said, I was amazed, and these are my kids, and they're One or two of them are usually rambunctious, she said, but even they were like enthralled. She said, thank you so much. Right. Took my name and said, when I need help again, will you come back? I said, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's about expectation, it's about engagement, your ability to engage the kids and meet them where they are, but have an expectation because they will rise to that.
But do you think that there's an age where it changes, where the wonderment of school is, I don't want to say lost, because that's not what I mean. Is there an age, do you find that the curiosity of school is lost and peer pressure comes in?
I think that is there. I wouldn't say the curiosity is lost because they're children.
Yes.
Right? They may be 6 foot, they may be 5 foot, they may be big, they may be slim, they may look like adults, but they're still children. So I don't think it's the wonderment that's lost. I think it's the expectation. I go back to the expectation in a lot of cases of the adults, because suddenly, especially when kids get to high school, you've got the adults who are like, okay, well, we're preparing you for college. My God, they just got in the door. Allow them to transition from middle school to high school, but no, they're here now. We're preparing you for college down the road. Like, hello, even college has gotten a lot more interactive. That teacher or the lecturer kind of like sage on the stage, just lecturing to students. That is still not typical of all college courses and classes anymore. There's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of collaboration in terms of group work and so forth. So I think there is that there's that piece where adults want kids, they just think of the kids through their lens.
Okay.
Right? So when they see themselves as the kids, right? So however you were at school, that's how you expect the kids to be, but your context is different.
Correct.
So, yeah. Your context is totally different.
Now, what about all the modern equipment that's in schools now? You've got the interactive board, the smart board, and every kid seems to have some kind
access to a device.
Chromebooks.
Yeah.
The Chromebooks. Do you think that's helping or hurting?
Well, you see, it's never the I've never thought it's the technology, because oftentimes, even with the smart board, you'll see smart boards just being used as glorified overhead projectors.
Correct.
Right. So when I was in the classroom, you had a transparent sheet that you wrote on or you typed on, you printed and you put it, and then you projected.
Correct.
Right? Now, an interactive smartboard, you're literally supposed to interact with the smartboard, let the kids come up and interact with the smartboard, do things with it. But a lot of times that's not what happens. It's just a screen.
I didn't know that. So in other words, I don't know, an example of the kids would come up and touch it and it would change colours or write on it and stuff.
Right, exactly. There's a lot. And I mean, in smart, I can't imagine what they can do now. I know what they could do, 10, 15 years ago when I was in the classroom, when they just came in, much less now. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's a lot like the tablets as well. So we no longer use, where you have the Chromebooks, you no longer use the notepad, right? Pencil and paper. You transcribe, but then what else are they doing? Are they creating web pages? All right, are they creating, so they're addicted to social media, are they creating a Facebook page or a Facebook, site or a WhatsApp, I don't know, a collage or something to demonstrate knowledge of something that they have learnt? So oftentimes you have to bring educators and teachers to that way of showing, because a lot of times when you talk about assessing what kids are learning, teachers are, okay, well, they gave them a test. Okay, what, just pencil and paper? They had to answer questions. They had to write an essay. Have you thought about, okay, let them make a brochure then. Let them create a poster. But give them the same rubric, the same expectation, but because everyone learns differently. So is it helping? Of course, the technology is there to assist, but are we using it in a way that's... So, for instance, even something as simple as this. Kids are on their phones. All right, let's get your phones. All right, 2 of you in a group, whatever, let's video your conversation. Let's have a debate. So there are many different ways in which you can demonstrate knowledge and learning.
I agree. My I don't know, maybe I'm a little biased against technology. I'm for technology, but against technology. When my son was studying for his SATs, and he had to do the math portion.
Right.
He was in AP classes and honours classes and things of that nature. So the teacher, who was very smart, taught them how to do the maths freehand, but also with the calculator.
Right.
So he taught them both ways how to do it. So these kids in that class knew how to do it. My son went to his SAT, forgot his calculator, and was able to answer the questions. And actually that was his highest score at that time. So I say that to say, most teachers are not teaching that. They would show you how to do it on the calculator,
Right.
because that's the technology that is available and everybody's using it. But what about our brains? Do you see
Right,
that
but the
point?
thing is, what I've always thought about in terms of even utilizing a calculator is that the kids have to know and understand the operations that they have to. If they don't have that prior knowledge, then just doing it for simple addition and subtraction, yes. But when you come to, like, say, graphing an equation or something, if you don't understand the process prior to even being able, you won't be able to compute that same or transfer that same process onto a calculator. That's been my experience.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that's my experience. I don't know.
So
I'm
what
not
we're
an
saying is we love technology.
But technology has its place. Yes, it has its place in terms of convenience.
Okay.
Because look at how, even amongst us, come on, like in the last 10 years, right, the last 15, 20 years ago, do you know what I mean? What we can do now, this would have been a great big old desktop. What this can do now, the first computer that I got, a desktop in 1996,
Couldn't do.
It couldn't do what my phone can do today.
That's also true.
You knew that. You had to dial up, remember? You had to, when you plugged in the AOL, right? The phone line, and then it did, and you had to wait and don't let anybody call you while you were online because it would disconnect, right? Remember that?
We have come a long way.
Okay.
We really have come.
And it was just the other day, it would seem.
We have come a long way. We have come a long way. Where do you see the future of education going?
Oh, Lauren, I don't know. All right, so it's funny you should ask me that. I Googled something last summer, because I was asking myself the same question. And one of the things that I've come across is this whole theory of a disruptive education.
What does that mean?
What it means is that things are no longer as cut and dry as they used to be, right? Back in the day, you went to school, you went to college, or you went to a trade school,
Okay.
you got a skill, you got a degree, there was a job waiting for you.
Okay.
That's not what society is like anymore. All right, so it's almost like we're educating students now for in a world that's no longer as stable as it used to be.
Okay.
Right? I haven't gone in depth into the theory, but it makes perfect sense. So now how do we equip our youth, our young people? How are we? Because in many instances, they're far ahead of us. Even if you're talking about the technology and what it can do and what they can do, they're already ahead of us. Right? So my son, who is 32, who's on the cusp of the millennial, he seems to think he's not, but he is. Right? So he's that millennial, but the whatever Z, I don't know what generation whatever
Z,
the one
I think
was
so.
before them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he, I hope he never sees this, but like he's got his masters and everything. By the age of 23, 24, started out in corporate America and then decided that he was going to be a corporate dropout. Right? I was horrified. I was like, we spent all this money. This boy went to, WPI. Me and my community, we don't understand that. My age, we think we're still young, but we're not really. Yeah, we're middle aged. Yeah, like where's this boy doing? Has he lost his mind? But 5 years down the, is it 5 years? About 4 years down the road, he's at home with his kids. Yet he's making money. He's utilizing all the skills that he has. So I forget what he does now. He creates some online something that he do. I don't know. But he has clients. And in France, right?
Yeah.
He has things that he can't do himself or that would take him hours to do. He's outsourcing to people in Romania. And I'm like, well, how do you do this? How do you know there? He says, Mom, there's platforms that you go through. And so the world has
Changed.
It's changed.
And evolved. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if we're still standing at the chalkboard, you know what I mean? 1 + 1 is 2, 3 + 3, you know what I mean? Step
Then
one,
we are
step
behind.
two.
We're behind.
And that's why we're losing them.
Okay.
Now, I don't think that's the same everywhere, but I'm not sure what they're doing in suburban schools. But I know, and I'm not saying in all urban schools and urban contexts, but I think we're behind the curveball, and our kids are at a disadvantage. They're at a disadvantage anyway.
But okay, you're absolutely right, because
we don't have the resources.
What about the actual statistics that America is actually behind? Forget about urban school versus suburban schools. Well, what about America in general is behind? 33rd in reading, 30-something in maths, 30-something in English. How can we be behind in English? That's the language that everyone speaks. Like, how are you behind in the language that you speak? And then the countries that are 1, 2, and 3, and 4, those countries speak 4, 5 languages. But does this make any sense?
It doesn't. But then you make a good point. If America's behind, right? Yeah, 33rd in the world. Yeah. So meaning the top of Americans, right? That's where they are. So then I'm sorry. I go back to my babies. So where does that leave our babies?
So thank you for sharing all that educational stuff. You know what? I find it completely fascinating. I think living in America and the school system is so different from the schools that we went to when we were both still in England. So that's for sure different. How do you find living in America? What do you like about living here? What do you not like about living here?
I think one of the things that I love about living here, having been here now 20, I can't believe it, it's this year, August will be 24 years. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
But you're not that far behind me. What is it, 20? You're coming up to 20 now.
I'm
18.
I'm more than you, but that's okay, because I've had 2 stints, but that's okay.
I'm talking about the last time you came.
Oh, this last time, I think I came in 2001, so what
it was
is
01? Really?
17.
Okay, so 17 years. All right, okay. All right, so what do I like? I like, one of the things that I used to like, I don't know about, especially with this winter and spring that we've had, but I used to love the definitive seasons. Yes.
Okay.
I love that the summers were hot. I love that autumn was autumn, fall was fall, winter was winter, and spring was spring. But now it's kind of like turning upside down because, the weekend was beautiful, but it was like 32 degrees yesterday. Something ain't right. So, but that aside, so I definitely still like the weather. I like the fact that you can go fly somewhere for 3 hours and then to Florida, for instance, and totally different climate. I like the fact that, I don't know, somehow this is more of a material thing, but you're able to move ahead. There's opportunities. There are obstacles, but there are opportunities.
Yes,
right?
I got to say, one of the things I do like about living here, I find that the people here are really focused on trying to get ahead.
Right.
Like there is not that necessarily satisfaction and acceptance of, I'm here today and this is where I am and this is it and and settle. I find that the people in American people basically, they're very much into, I might be here today, but I plan to be over there. And I know that what that means is working harder, going to school, changing my job, making more friends, or changing my social circle or something. I like that. I find that maybe I'm stereotyping, but I find that a lot of people in England, it's like, okay, this is the way it is and this is the way it always will be. And so I've come to a place of acceptance and I'm okay. I remember when I moved back to England for a few years, and I said to one of my friends I was going back to school, and she's like, what you going back to school for? Like, her thought process was, why would you go back to school? And I couldn't understand why she couldn't understand why I wanted to go back to school. Right. So that I find is a great little contrast between the two. So that I find interesting. And how are you keeping yourself busy other than obviously working in the school system? What are you, assistant principal?
I'm an assistant principal.
Are you loving it, or are you ready to strangle someone?
No, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready to strangle anyone.
I didn't say what school. I didn't say what school.
No, I know.
You can strangle those kids.
No, I'm not strangling them.
I'm joking.
No, I actually enjoy what I do. I do because it's that one child. Sometimes it's more than one child, but it's that one child each day that you're able to touch, knowingly or unknowingly.
To make a difference.
To make a difference.
Okay.
It's the knowing. All right, so we have 900 plus kids in the school that I work at, and you recognize a face that is new. It amazes me. There's got to be some psychology behind it, and I want to know what it is. But if there's a kid, I'll be like, you come to this, are you new? And sometimes I get it wrong. They're like, man, I've been here for 5 years, not 4, 5 years. Mm-hmm. But now, that's off. But that's about 95% of the times I stop a child and I say, are you new? They're going to tell me yes. How I'm able to do that, and it's not just me, but how we're able to do that, I don't know. You're talking 900 faces, and there's no way that I see all 900 faces every single day. But yet there is that face that comes in. I'll give you a joke. So one more, and this will hopefully will. I've gone off the topic about what do I like about America, what do I like about my job. But so there was a girl at the classroom door was open. So I said to her, you knew? She said, yeah. It's okay, anyway, go have a seat. So I walked past the classroom again a little later, and a girl was on her phone. So I was motioning to the girl to put her phone away, but she was ignoring me. So I said, okay, I'm going to go inside. So I go inside the classroom now. Teacher has the kids in groups, so it's like about 5 of them at this table, including the girl that I'd asked earlier if she was new. And so the girl put her phone away, then the teacher came over. So I noticed that all the other girls there were 4 of them, they had worksheets. This one girl didn't. So I said, well, how come this child doesn't have any work? So he starts to say, well, and then one of the girls said, Miss, she's okay, you can go. I said, no, this is a freshman. I'm like, no. I said, why doesn't she have any work? So he says, well, I said, she's not on your roster. He says, no. I said, okay, all right. I said, come with me, let's go, because I'm going to go pull up her schedule now and see exactly where she's supposed to be. So we get to the door of the classroom, and I said to her, oh, go get your bag, because where she was sitting was a book bag. So she says, I don't have a book bag.
Okay.
I said, come with me. So I looked at her. I said, you come to this school? She said, it's period 3, She says, no. She didn't say anything. I said, come with me. I said, what's your name? She gives me a name. I pull her up. She don't come to the school. A little tiny thing.
What was she doing there?
Friends brought her to... She'd been to 3 classes. That was her 3rd class.
And no one had noticed that she wasn't even a student.
The principal, I knew she was new, because remember I said to you, I said she was new, I knew, but she didn't belong to us. So
that's pretty funny.
This was like 3rd period, so I'm going to say it's about like 9:30 in the morning. So I called security up. I'm like, come, so we bring her downstairs now, start to dig and dig and dig, and like, what's going on, child, blah, blah, blah. Finally get her to tell us a school so I call the school now. They're like, oh, we've been looking for her. I said, well, she's here. I called the parent, and that was the saddest part, because at 2:15, now I'm telling you, we've had her there all day, we've fed her, we've done everything. We called DCF, well, I think she was on there, the books, whatever. The police, school resource officers came, took statement from the girl. We're lumbered with this girl. 2:15, the mother called to say that, well, if we could hold on to her, she's going to try to get an uncle. I says, ma'am, at 2:30, we're going to have to let your child go, because will be dismissal. We've done all that we can do in terms of holding this child. I think she ended up going back home. But my point was that we tend to know, new faces. But yet, there was that one that slipped in.
It was great having Carmen join me for tea today. Just a wonderful spirit. I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. That's all we have time for. Hopefully you'll tune in again. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's Tea Time with Lorna. Bye.
Bye.